What's up, everybody? I'm Caleb Ochoa, also known as NFL Caleb 22, and this is Betting the NFL Week number 18. And as always, here with me is my co-host, Derek Wesley, also known as DWeezy. What's going on, man?
Man, happy to, say we made it through the season. You had some ups and downs. Been a ride for sure. Always seems that, uh it goes a lot faster than it seems, There's all the anticipation of the regular season build up, and when it's here, it seems to fly by even when you're in the moment. And so I don't want to say I'm shocked that, here we are right on the cusp of the playoffs starting, but it just seems to go by a lot faster than you expect it to.
We'll say what's up to Jay. What's going on, man? Happy to have you. And my dad, what's going on? Yeah, I mean it's been a long season, but we gotten here, made some money, lost some money, and we're ready to keep doing it all the way through the playoffs, all the way up to the Super Bowl. We'll be here trying to squeeze out every last bet and get every last penny that we can, and that's the goal of the show, and will continue to be the goal of the show is to make you guys money. Um, but before we get into this week's picks, we got to look back at what happened in week 17, and we'll recap it real quick. Uh, Before we do that, Jay says Panthers wins so far down the devil, so I had to come up and see what was going on. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess we could talk about that game. I didn't have that as a game, unless you were going to talk about that game as one of your on the bad side. We'll
Well,
get
I,
to
I
it.
definitely I got to put that one down as the bad beat of the week. I
Okay.
think
Well, we'll get to
anytime,
it. We'll get to it.
yeah,
We'll get to it.
yeah.
Don't know. Hold on a second. We'll first recap what happened with the numbers. The favorites 9-7 against the spread. Overall, this season the favorites been winning pretty good. 127 to 116 and 13 pushes there. 52% winning percentage for the favorites against the spread. Home teams. Wasn't much. It was all even with the home teams versus away teams, 8-8 overall. The away teams have been having the edge against the spread against home teams, 120, 123, and 13. Home teams are only at 49%. But this is the thing we've been seeing in recent weeks: the overs hitting nine overs versus seven unders, and that was what we've seen for the last few weeks is the overs hitting more than the unders, which is against what we saw through most of the season, which is we saw a lot of the unders hitting, which is why the record is 116 overs, 138 unders, 54% chance that the under was going to hit. But that definitely has not been the case for the recent weeks. The overs have been hitting pretty good. A lot more points have been scored, and that might be due to a lot of the playoff pushes and a lot of teams giving up on the season, ready to pack it in, and we definitely saw a lot of that going on this past week.
Yeah, I definitely think some of those overs you can kind of contribute it to a bit of a double-edged sword between the playoff push from some teams and whether they blatantly admit it or not, but basically tanking out of some teams. And it doesn't take much to get the right combination for an over to come in, especially in a season where we've been seeing unders be the trend. And I mean, to a strong degree. I mean, not to say necessarily go out and bet every game under blindly, but I mean, we for a stretch there were bordering on that territory. Um, just to use a little bit of a comparison, you know, you were pointing out there was no real home advantage between the homes or at least the home teams having an advantage. This was something that you pointed out early into this season, and I think the data reflects some of that to a degree. as well as the favorites. That sort of evening out as you get towards the end of the season. Books adjusting the numbers some. I believe you said 52%.
Yeah.
Yes, technically leaning one way versus the other, but nothing too dramatic that you might look at that and as something that stands out. But I definitely think, if it wasn't for these past couple of weeks, I mean, we might have been talking about unders in a very historic like fashion at the rate they were coming in, and just how much it seemed to go against the grain with what we've seen out of trending offenses and the direction the NFL has been going overall as far as style of play.
All right. Now we will get into the biggest upset of the week, and that came in into to my great delight. It came in the Cardinals plus 12 and a half at the Philadelphia Eagles. Cardinals get the big upset win 35-31. This was my favorite upset of the week of the season. Just watching the epic collapse of the Philadelphia Eagles just brings me so much joy. I love seeing it. Um, I think we said it through the whole time that they were winning all their games this season. They didn't look great doing it. They were winning, but they didn't look good. And now it finally shows in the past 5 weeks or so that the Eagles, you know, they just not as good as they were last year, and definitely their defense is really terrible. Continues to be terrible as Kyler Murray threw 3 touchdowns on them, and as James Conner ran up and down the field on them for about 128 yards in the TD. And it was just perfect. It was just perfect ending to this great collapse of the Philadelphia Eagles. That Jalen Hurts throws the interception on the last play of the game. And yeah, I mean, I love it. So yeah, do not bet the Eagles going forward because this is going to stay collapsing. It's falling apart, and I'm going to fade them when it comes to playoff time.
Yeah, this is, the cracks started showing early and they've only worsened, and the whatever adjustments and corrections we've seen the Eagles attempt to make just have not worked out. Um, there was a lot of hype around this team, and especially the defense. I think that's been what stood out to people most this season when it comes to this team is that, not to say the defense was, overhyped, but I don't think we expected the drop off, and especially almost mid-season. I don't. The way this defense was playing at the beginning of the season is almost light years from what we've seen in this past month of football. And we've seen some changes made on the coaching side, and that has yet to show any improvement or really positive effect. And so yeah, I mean, definitely, going into the playoffs, this it's hard to back a team like this. You're looking for teams that are playing the best kind of football going into the playoffs, not a team that is playing some of their worst football.
All right. Now we get into the bad beat of the week. And in back-to-back weeks, the Dallas Cowboys are involved in this the bad beat of the week, and that comes in the lines at the Cowboys, 19-20. And the bad beat comes with all the Lions money line betters. I mean, you thought you had it, but you just didn't have it. Um, Whether you want to say the refs took it away from you, um, or whatever you want, what excuse you want to make. You lost your money when you bet the Lions. Um, I don't feel like the refs took it away because clearly they said 70 was eligible over the loudspeaker. Everybody heard it, including the defense. So they were keying on 70. And had they said 68, I think that our defense was going to look the other way and look for 68 to be catching the ball. No matter what happened, they still had the another chance, and they could have kicked the extra point. Dan Campbell was too stubborn not to do that. He went for he took the went for it once again for the 2 points, and then had another penalty, and then went again for 2 points, and still did not get it. Um, I mean, it's really your own dumb mistakes, Lions, that you lost that game. Um, you can blame the rest if you want. Either way, you know, and even before that, there was tripping call that they totally missed. Called them on the Cowboys. It was the Lions player that actually had his foot sticking out and should have been called for the tripping. So even that doesn't happen. Um, the Cowboys could have gotten the ball, maybe ran the ball more, and completely taken all the time away. So, but it was what it was, and it all worked out for the best, you know. Uh, but for all those Lions betters, it was definitely a bad beat for you.
Yeah, I think you know if you were back in the Lions money line and you were watching this game, I hope you got medical attention or something because physically your body had to go through it. I mean, your heart, your brain. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some blood vessels ruptured along the way. I mean, because it pretty much had everything that encompasses a bad beat. I mean, bad officiating, uh, bad play calling, bad play execution. I mean, you literally got a little bit of everything. Uh, so I mean, it's hard to look at one individual thing as far as this is what did it. But man, you definitely got to feel for the Lions money line backers out there. Uh, you know,
All right. Now we'll get into our own records of the week. Didn't have a good week, 2-3. But my best pick was the 49ers minus 14 and a half at the Commanders. They win it 27-10. And even with the large spread, I don't normally take those spreads. I usually try to avoid them, but I couldn't not pass up this opportunity. I thought it was too good. With the just the difference in talent of these two teams and just the different way that their seasons have gone. Um, Washington has just been nosediving for the past several weeks. Um, they've been playing like one of the worst football teams in the NFL. So I love the Niners even with the minus 14 and a half. I thought they would easily cover that spread, but it was a little shaky. It was a little shaky in the middle. But then towards the end of the game, they started to pull away and started turned on, and they covered that spread, and that's all I asked for, and that's what happened. So I was happy with that pick.
yeah, for my best pick from last week, it had to be Joe Flacco and the Browns. This resurgence, I mean, you talk about Kurt Warner esque coming off the couch mid season, turning the team around, leading them to the playoffs. Now he'll be resting this coming week, but I mean that game against the Jets, it was never really in doubt. I wasn't able to watch it physically, but I was able, to follow it as the game was going on. And there was at no real time did I ever check the score and felt like it was something to worry about. I mean, this is definitely a team to potentially watch out for in the playoffs in the Browns because, as I mentioned earlier, you're looking for the teams that are playing their best football. And regardless of how they got to this point, they're playing their best football with Joe Flacco out there. And that's a top-notch defense, potentially one of the best defenses in the NFL this season, and an offense that seems to be clicking and firing on all pistons, going at full speed. It I've been riding with the Browns the past couple of weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Haven't lost one yet. So as far as a best pick from this last week, only went 2-3, but definitely Joe Flacco and the Browns was the best of those two.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they think about this team in the playoffs versus the best teams. Whether they have faith in Flacco or they don't, they'll definitely reflect in the point spreads. They might be undervalued, and if they are, then I think they're that's a really good bet to make. But we'll have to see on that one. But we talked about the good. Now we gotta talk about the bad, and definitely my worst pick was the Saints at the Buccaneers. At the Buccaneers -2.5, and every time I start believing in Baker, it just lets me down. And I've lost money multiple times betting on the Bucks. Uh, you know, he was because I always bet them right after he comes off like a really good win. He's looking really good. He's playing well. That's what happened last time. He was playing well, and then they lose, uh, and I just keep falling for it and keep losing money on him, and it just keeps biting me in the ass. But yeah, Derek Carr wasn't great, but he did enough to lead them to the win because he didn't turn over the ball like Baker did. And I think that was the difference in this game. Saints defense did a great job all day, putting pressure on Baker and forcing him into the mistakes that he made. Um, they also, contained Rashad White, so they couldn't really have a rush game going. Definitely just stifled the whole entire Buccaneers offense as a whole. But yeah, I'm just done betting Baker because it just enough works out for me.
Yeah, this Tampa Bay team, it's definitely been an up and down one all season long. And that's just really that's what that inconsistency is what makes this one of the most difficult things to do when it comes to betting some of these spreads and some of these lines. Um, because you need that consistency, and when you don't get it, like you said, one week you see a really impressive performance, you don't use just that sole week in your handicap, but outliers like that become harder to gauge as far as what their actual value might represent, because yes, he went out and had a successful game. Yes, the offense went out and had a great game, but are they going to do it next week? Because neither one of us thought they were going to go out and play as horribly as they did. Um, it's just that simple. Uh, you know, and moving into, my worst pick of the week, going back to my Carolina Panthers, I wasn't alone in thinking that maybe the Jaguars would struggle
Yeah.
against them. Clearly, we were all wrong. I mean,
I
everybody,
mean,
because
even after the news, you felt better about your bet after you saw Trevor Lawrence was out and you saw CJ Benz. You probably were like, yeah, it was
exactly.
perfect.
Yeah. Like, oh man, like I might have been right about that money line. And then the game started. And I'm pretty sure that from that point on, the bets were dead. The score might have technically still been 0-0, but nope, the bets were dead. Didn't matter what you had, because man, you talk about going out and laying a goose egg. I think that just really personifies the Panthers season. Uh, and then the news with David Tepper, the owner. Uh, I'm glad the rest of the nation can finally get a view of what we've been dealing with um, as an owner. I mean, this dude is. I'd hate to say, I won't say he's a fool, but yes, he goes out there and acts like a child. Um, all you have to do is simply Google what he's things that he's done since becoming the owner. I mean, there's a failed practice facility project that went to litigation between him and the county and the city where it was supposed to be built. A number of different things. You know, it's like at the point that you have fans like wishing that an event like what occurred this past Sunday in the Jaguars stadium, like can they force him to sell the team now? Like when that's where people's minds go immediately. It's like, yo, it's only been 6 years. Do we have to deal with this much longer? Like, like what's he got to do? Can we speed this up any? Yeah, because David Tepper as an owner has just been a complete joke. Even recently, sectioning off their fans of the Panthers know, the keep pounding saying it comes from a player that was a former player, us, and he was a coach back in the 2003 playoff run. Gave a speech. That's where it comes from. But Sam Mills delivered the speech. He's the player it comes from. He's the first Panthers player in the Hall of Fame. There's a statue of him outside the stadium. That is a place that's a bit of tradition where people go to take photos and things of that nature. Uh, Sort of, just a hangout spot after and before games. Well, recently at home games, that's been sectioned off from the fans. Uh, and it would sound absurd to be like, oh, he's doing this intentionally trying to punish the fans. And then you see him literally go throw a drink at an opposing fans in their state. Like, so yeah, I'm glad the rest of the nation can finally get a glimpse of what we've been dealing with. And for those that have been, asking what the hell is going on with the Panthers, I give you David Tepper.
All right. That will wrap up our recap of week number 17. Now we will get into our best bets of week 18. Before we do that, we like to help you guys out. If you guys can help us out by subscribing to the channel, hitting that like button on this show, and also hit the notification button to notify when we go live, because we go live quite often on this channel for multiple different shows. We go live here, as you know, at 8 o'clock every Wednesday. We go live at 3 o'clock on Fridays on Good Friends Better Rivals. So definitely do that. And if you really want to help us out, you can join our Patreon. The link is in the description down below. Join whatever tier that suits you. We would really appreciate if you could do that. All right. Now we will get into our best bets of week number 18. I'm going to start it with the Vikings at the Lions. The Lions are -3.5. And I'm going to go ahead and lay the points with the Lions. I think the Lions are pretty pissed off after what happened to them last week. I mean, I don't think they can do much with their seeding in the playoffs, but I think they're ready to take a little bit of their anger out on their division rivals, who have just been reeling in recent weeks. I mean, they're throwing out Jaron Hall out there, who did not look good last week as they got beat down 33-10 to the Packers. I think this game will be pretty similar to that, what just happened to them, given the opposite talent on the Lions side. And the Vikings will be probably trying to get a higher draft pick by losing this game. So I like the Lions to win pretty easily, covering a surprisingly small 3.5 point spread at home, no less. Lions have been very good against the spread this season, 11-5. Vikings are 0-6 in the last 6 games versus Detroit. So I definitely like the Lions here.
Yeah, I'm riding with the same game. I was actually able to get it -3, and I definitely like the number there. Y'all have heard me talk about pushes all season because I've been hitting them. Well, this is an instance where I actually see that as a benefit, that possibility of the possibly falling on 3, hitting that push. Because this is the one of the hardest weeks to handicap because you don't know who's playing. You don't know how long they're gonna play. I mean, it can get really wild and crazy trying to figure out some of these lines because at first glance you might look at something and go, holy crap, why is this number's wrong, this number makes 0 sense. A Google search or two and you figure out, oh man, it's a good thing I didn't bet that at that number, because yes, that's what that number should be. And so and the fact that it's early in the week for us, does have a little bit of an added challenge. But this is definitely a difficult week to handicap, and we're talking about probably one of the few teams out there with a legitimate reason. Yes, they have nothing to really play for in the traditional sense, but like you said, coming off a embarrassing loss, a disrespectful loss, a team that has had a mentality that we're disrespected by everybody. We have to earn everything we get. So not the type of mentality you would expect a team to go out there and lay down simply because they've got things wrapped up. You know, I believe the Lions are, at least from the mental side of the game, are taking an aspect of you yes, we won the division. It's not good enough. We can do more, and that's dangerous. This team. A lot of people undersold them throughout this season, and they went out and won double digits, won the division. So there's still boxes they can check off, and with a low spread like that, and under those circumstances, yeah, I'll gladly back the Lions -3.
All right, we agree there. I'll go to my next pick, and that will be the Jaguars at the Titans. Titans are getting 5.5, and I'm going to take the points here. The Jaguars have been really bad, actually. I think just pretty bad. They've been really bad in the last 5 weeks, losing 4 out of those 5 games. The only one beaten is, they beat your lowly Panthers last week. Uh, but before that, they were pretty bad. Lawrence has been playing bad, and he couldn't score 20 points combined in his previous 2 games versus both the Bucks and the Ravens. And even though the Titans don't have much to play for, they're they're always a well coached team under Mike Vrabel. They're always well prepared, and they're always a difficult matchup for anybody. I mean, they've given multiple good teams a run for their money this season, even though the record hasn't been great. And I think the Jaguars are just going to stumble and play their way out of the playoffs here. And I honestly think the Titans could get the outright win, especially playing at home. And but if you're going to give me 5.5, I'm going to take it all day. Jacksonville 1-4 in the last 5 games against the spread, so definitely like the Titans getting the points.
Yeah, this was a matchup I looked at a little bit. I'm not on this game specifically, but definitely a situation where you can look to fade the Jags. Something I saw mentioned the other day on social media was a number of teams that are in scenarios where they have to win to make the playoffs, and the the point they were making were, don't use this as a handicap because there's a lot of teams in must-win situations right now, and it may not necessarily deliver the same weight that you expect it to. Um, in a lot of these scenarios, you need two, three, four different things to fall in line, but it all starts with winning your game this week. Uh, so for some of these teams, it's a more realistic must-win scenario versus others. Um, but yeah, looking at this matchup, I definitely didn't like the Jags last week. Now them going out and doing that against my Panthers, that can't really say impresses me any because it's the Panthers. That's what they've been this year and for a little while now. But yeah. So if I was to play this matchup, I'd definitely be looking to back the Titans. And another hard nosed mentality team, where they're gonna probably look to try and keep the game a little bit lower scoring. Grind away in the run game. Um, so yeah, a spread like 5.5, depending on where you're getting the number, being able to cover that field goal and potentially that 4 point deficit, depending on how the score can fall. It's not that uncommon to see, the score fall 4. So yeah, if I was to get involved with this game, I'd definitely be looking to back the Titans in that matchup. Now moving into my next game, um, you know, mentioning some of these hard nosed matchups. Now this is one where I don't think the game will have too much effect on playoff seeding for the Ravens as they take on the Steelers. But I am taking the Ravens in this +4 situation. This is one of those defensive matchups and battles that we've seen over the history where regardless of who's out there, who's playing, we could have the starters lined up. And if you're going to give me +4 on one side, I'm going to have to think about it heavily, regardless of who the team is, just because we will see plenty of these games and scenarios finish on a field goal. That a 4 point range, one team up by a field goal, the other team scores that late TD, goes up by 4, that type of scenario. Um, so, yes, in this matchup, definitely think the way the Steelers have been playing and the way they will, have traditionally played in this matchup, you can expect a hard fought game on both sides of the ball, regardless of who's out there. But again, I still like being able to get that +4, um, as I said, to cover, the potential of the game ending on a field goal.
That's a surprising pick, considering the Steelers have been playing well, um, and the Ravens, like you said, it might be sitting a lot of players. So yeah, I mean that's a bold pick for you, but we'll see how it turns out. But for my next bet, I got the New England Patriots -1.5 at home versus the New York Jets. Jets have lost 15 straight games versus the New England Patriots. 15. Um, and I think it's just really this simple. Jets cannot beat the Patriots. It doesn't matter. Yes, I understand a lot of those wins were versus Tom Brady, and that's understandable that you're going to lose to him a lot. But some of those were Cam, some of those were Mac Jones, some of those were just a whole mix of quarterbacks that they had these past few years. Um, yes, the Patriots aren't great, but the Jets have been pretty horrible on offense all season long, and now their defense is bad. They always had that to rely, fall back on. Oh, yeah, the offense is bad, but their defense is the one that plays good. Not so much these past 3 weeks. They have given up 37, 28, and 30 points in the last 3 weeks. Their defense has given up on this team as well. They're packing it in. The offense had packed it in after Aaron Rodgers got hurt. So now their whole team is all nice and packed up, and now they can go get beat by the Patriots for a 16th straight time. And if this is Bill Belichick's last game as a New England Patriots head coach, there's no way he is losing to the New York Jets, who he despises. Um, I just can't see it happen. So yeah, I definitely like the Patriots covering just a small 1.5 point spread.
Yeah, if I had known that before, uh, I would have I would have jumped on this game, because I looked at it a little bit, uh, just didn't feel comfortable with it. A couple of different things stood out to me, but yes, that's a trend that's hard to stand in the way of, and as you said, if this is Bill Belichick's last game, at least as the head coach of the Patriots, I think some fair arguments can be made, whether it be retirement or him ending up potentially with another team. There's definitely some possibilities there. But yes, he's not going out on a loss to the Jets in his final game uh, as the coach of the Patriots. Not happening, especially with a streak like that on the line. Uh, you know that goes against what a lot of these head coaches are in their core. They you tell them something like you don't have to tell them something like that. They know already. They keep track of stuff like that. You know, because as you said, yes, that this may be something that extends all the way back to Tom Brady, but it's been a number of years since Tom Brady was playing in a New England Patriots jersey.
Yeah.
That's twice a year for what 4 or 5 years now at least. That's 9 or 10 straight without Brady. Like, yeah, you don't have to tell Bill Belichick that, hey, you've beaten the Jets 15 straight times. He's probably going to look at you and be like, I'm trying to beat them 16 times. Like, so, yeah, if I had known that, that could have definitely swayed me as far as playing that game or not this week. Um, but moving into my next pick, the team I mentioned earlier, and yes, they will be sitting players this week, but it got to go with the Browns +7 as they take on the Bengals. Um, a lot of this to the Browns defense, even if they're sitting some of the star players, a defensive unit to play at the level that they're playing, it takes more than just your stars performing. You can, a great defense has a great player or two on it, but that defense isn't playing great just simply because of those one or two players. It's because your good players are stepping up. It's because players all across the board are stepping up. And so, even in a scenario where we're talking about sitting Miles Garrett and potentially other starters, this defense wouldn't be playing at the level that it's been playing to if the overall collective effort wasn't being played at a high level. And given this Bengals matchup, not 100% sure about the Bengals playoff situation and scenarios. It's, I mean, I'm pretty sure just about everybody this week has some sort of scenario.
Well, I think the Bengals are eliminated.
Okay, then yeah, that
Yeah, they were
definitely
eliminated
helps.
last week.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if we, outside of maybe some incentive reasons, players trying to get those whether it be starts, playing time, receiving TDs. I know I heard one about DeAndre Hopkins. Um, and yes, folks, this is something worth noting and potentially playing some of the prop bets for players that are on the border of reaching an incentive, because in some of these contracts you're talking about a nice little payday. um I believe with DeAndre Hopkins, I heard he needs, if he gets two more touchdowns, it's 125,000. If he gets six more receptions, that's 125,000. So you're talking about a player that if they go out there and have what's a good game for them and completely within their capabilities, um, potentially $250,000 riding on the line. So, not to say it's the sole reason driving them, but that's definitely the type of thing. Somebody comes whispering in your ear, hey, you can get an extra $250,000 if you get X, Y, and Z. You might, be reaching for it a little bit more. Uh, but yes, I definitely, no Joe Flacco. I don't have that. But as I said, with this defense, I might be able to win this game simply because the defense outscored the Bengals. So riding with the Browns +7.
All right. Um, I'll get to my next bet. We got the Packers -3 at home versus the Bears. It may be going from Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, but I still think the Packers own the Chicago Bears, especially at home at Lambeau Field. Bears been playing as well as the Packers, but I think the Packers have way more to play for to go into this last week with the playoff that last playoff spot on the line for them. Packers are coming off a very dominant win against the Minnesota Vikings. Um, so yeah, I think they are a 3-point favorite for a reason. I think Vegas realize is how good this Packers team can play, and I think they show up again against a team that they have a lot of success over the years. Packers are 7-0 straight up over the Bears at Lambeau, and the Bears are 0-9 against the spread last 9 games versus Green Bay. So all the numbers point to the Packers covering the spread.
Yeah, this is definitely another matchup where it's you find someone that can make an argument for the Bears. Yes, they, played a little bit better the past few weeks, but we've also, we've seen this trend with them throughout the season already where a couple weeks here and there seem to be putting things together, figuring things out, clicking, whatever catchphrase you want to use, and then the very next week go out and play awful like this team had never seen each other. So definitely not looking, to back the Bears in any game. I'm not on this game, but yes, see. Even the dog is crying about the Bears. That's how awful it is. So we're not, we're going. Yeah, if you're on this game, take the Packers. Don't care what it is. Listen to the dogs barking. So now moving into my next matchup, I'm be going with, not the dog in the matchup, but going with the Houston Texans -1.5 as they take on the Colts. Um, this is a team where yes, they got a lot to play for, but at the same time, they don't have that expectation. If they go out there and lose, don't make the playoffs, whatever happens, it was expected. They weren't meant to be a good team. And this team, especially when CJ Stroud has been under center, has gone out and shocked a lot of people all year long. So in a week where there's a lot of uncertainty about who we might see taking the field for some teams and things of that nature, to look at this matchup, Texans -1.5, CJ Stroud under center. I definitely feel more confident about them than I do the Colts in that matchup. And only having to win by 2 to cover the spread, I definitely like that number.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Texans initially. I was going to consider this pick, um, but I had a second thought, and I could see either one of these teams winning this game, especially with such a small spread. I saw it at +1, um, I think for the Colts. Yeah, +1 for the Colts. Um, so it's such a small spread, and like I said, either team has a chance to win this game. They both, had some really good games. Um, but yeah, it's too tough a matchup for me, and I just had to stay away from it overall. Um, all right, we got Flixies, however you say your name. Thanks for joining the show. I really appreciate you having you here. He said, "Should I do the over on CJ Stroud having 299.5 yards?" You want to give him some advice there?
I mean, I would definitely, if I'm not mistaken, he's that number would cover. He's trying to get to 4,000 yards basically. So yes, I
Mhm.
think there's definitely some value behind potentially targeting that number. I'm trying to pull up the Colts defense real fast. I know, off the top of my head, nothing about the Colts defense and secondary really would stand out to me as a reason to maybe stay away from the over in that situation. You know, that's the type of number that falls in line with what I was mentioning earlier with incentive driven angles on some of these props and things of that nature. Um, so yeah, it's a definite possibility. Can't really find
They're
anything.
ranked number 14 in passing defense, which is
See, and
top
that
half the league. They're pretty strong, but um, the Houston Texans are that's number ranked number 17 in passing yards. So I definitely like his chances to cover that, to go over, hit that over, and
yeah, and
get 300
and
yards.
I would expect a lot of these books. I would imagine his passing number is right around that 299.5. So you're talking about basically even money, maybe -115. Uh, now something maybe potentially worth investigating as well is a potential alternate number, maybe bumping it up just a little bit and seeing what kind of plus money is available there. But yes, I definitely like targeting the over in situations like this one. Oh. You back with us? You froze up for a second. All right. Now, now to jump
All right. Well,
into.
wait, I got my last. I haven't done my last pick yet.
Okay,
We'll
go
say
ahead.
what's up. We'll say what's up to Brandon Myself. Great to have you here, man. Thanks for showing up. Um, yeah, I got for my last bet of the week. I got the Eagles at the Giants. Giants getting +5, and I'm just gonna keep riding that epic collapse of the Philadelphia Eagles. Um, I'm gonna take the points here. We already heard Nick Sirianni is considering sending his guys um, because the Eagles are dependent on the Cowboys losing to the Commanders, so they have a chance to win the division. Which I think it's a pretty good idea, especially with the health of Jalen Hurts and a lot of the other players on their team as a whole. Send them, it's not too bad of an idea. It might just kind of, I mean, it's not like they're on some hot streak and sitting their guys is gonna cool them off. I mean, they've been cooled off for quite a while now, so maybe sitting them might be get them reset the Eagles. So, um, but even if they do play the whole game with all their starters, like I said, they've been bad for 5 weeks. They've been terrible all season on defense. They gave up 25 points last time against the Giants, in which they almost lost, which it came down to the final drive. Um, so definitely the Giants have a chance to beat them. Um, they are in a downward spiral. They just got they just gave up 35 points to the Cardinals. And I just don't see a way to really fix this defense. Um, so I like even if they do win, I still like the Giants to cover the 5 points. Eagles 0-5 against the spread in the last 5 games. Giants are actually 5-1 in the last 6 games, even though they haven't been that good, but they still are a pretty damn good covering team.
Yeah, this Giants team flirted with it. If the number was 5 in the previous game, they were flirting with covering that right up to the end of the game. And that was a game where, for the most part, they were out of it. I mean, it was not a good game for the Giants by any means. Um, so yeah, in this matchup, the way Philly's been playing, and especially with the possibility of sitting starters, um, I would definitely look at backing the Giants in this matchup, getting those points. 5 is a bit of an odd number. Um, some people hate it in a matchup like this where we saw them just recently lose by just a touch more. I could see another late touchdown situation. Not necessarily say garbage time, but enough to make it a one score game and get within that 5 point range. So yeah, if I was to get involved with this game, I would definitely lean towards the Giants because a lot's going wrong in Philly. I don't have so much an issue with the starters being set if they do go that route because something's got to work. They've been playing week to week and things only seem to get worse. So maybe having a little bit of extra time off or just a little bit less workload for a week, maybe that gets them back on track. But as far as backing them in this week, definitely won't be touching Philly in that matchup. Now moving into my last pick, going with the Miami Dolphins as they take on the Bills. I just have little to no faith in the Bills and what's going on in Buffalo. I mean, we were talking. This was a team that was literally on the verge of being eliminated weeks ago. Weeks ago, it's a miracle that here we are in the final week, even talking about it being a possibility of them making the playoffs. And how ironic, if I'm not mistaken, it's either second seed or nothing at all. Like it's either win the division or nothing. Um, and this is one of those teams. People have been talking about the dysfunction we've seen out of Philly this past week. We've seen a lot of maybe I wouldn't use the term dysfunction, but definitely people not on the same page in Buffalo this season. We saw the offensive coordinator get fired. We've seen changes happening on the coaching side. Uh, we've seen disgruntled players, at least. Maybe if dysfunction isn't the word. There's definitely been some disgruntled players at times. And it's something we've talked about before, this Bills team being very dependent on how well Josh Allen plays. And that's one of those things where that level of inconsistency, when you talk about from a week to week perspective, definitely I feel less worried about Josh Allen than I would say, a Patrick Mahomes, a Lamar Jackson, any other quarterback where, yes, they might have turnovers, but at least in my opinion, you get a more consistent level of play and you can lean on that more. And so in this matchup, you know, I think, Miami definitely hasn't had the season they wanted to have, you know, but I think they come out in this matchup and I think they win outright, but I'm going to take the +3.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a game I was looking at, especially with the +3. That really, you know, was something I was looking at. But the thing that held me back from it was just the injuries that they had suffered last week. They kind of got really beat up against Ravens. So I'm just kind of like in a wait and see how they look after suffering some of those injuries. And with like Waddle's, I don't know if he's going to play, and Bradley Chubb's out now. It's just a lot of flux with the Dolphins. So I definitely like them to win, but I just want to wait and see how good they are, um, in this game. Like I said, I don't trust the Bills either. Um, but I mean, they played bad, and even when they've won some of these games in recent weeks, but still they have a chance. They're like I said, they're playing for the division, playing for the playoffs lives. Um, so they might have a lot of motivation going in this game. But that's where they kind of slip up, and that's where Josh Allen gets you know plays tries to make every play, and that's where they get in trouble. So definitely like the Dolphins to win it, but I'm just not sure how they're gonna look. So that's what keeps me away from that one. But no red alert this week. We're
Praise the
on some
Lord.
different games. So you definitely, all you can go with my picks. You can go with DWeezy's picks, whatever you choose, as long as you're making money. That's all we care about. But that is the show. We'll wrap up by going over our picks just one last time. And I got the Patriots -1.5 at home versus the Jets. I have the Green Bay Packers at home -3 versus the Bears. I have the Giants at home +5 against Philly, and I got the Titans +5.5 versus the Jaguars, and I have the Lions -3.5 at home versus the Vikings.
This week I'm going to be riding with Detroit Lions -3 as they take on the Vikings in Detroit. Going to the almost Panthers, CJ Stroud in Houston, Texas, -1.5 as they go up to Indy and take on Gardner Minshew. Back in the Ravens, +4 as they play the Steelers at home. Cleveland +7 as they go to Cincy to face off with the Bengals. And also, like I said earlier, Miami Dolphins +3 as they take on the wishy-washy Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills.
All right, that's our show for the week. Like I said, that does not that that's maybe the last week of the NFL season, but it's not the last week for betting the NFL. We will be back here next week, all the way up through the playoffs, um, all the way up to the Super Bowl. So please tune in every single week. Until then, but that you can tell the people where they can find DWeezy.
Yes, y'all can reach me at Backyard Action Media here on YouTube and at the Yard Vets on Twitter.
Thanks for watching, Dave Vaughn. Yeah, you can find me at NFLCam22 on Instagram and Twitter /X. You can find me on this channel on Fridays at 3 o'clock on Good Friends Battle Rivals, talking Cowboys, talking Giants. The Cowboys big win versus the Lions, and also the Giants. They win or lose last week. We'll be talking about Giants game as well, and then previewing Cowboys versus Commanders and Giants versus Eagles, and we'll go in depth on those games. What's going to happen? Please tune in for that. But like I said, still a few more opportunities to win some money. So please get in all your bets for this last week of the NFL season, and we'll see you next week. But like I always say, let's get ready to make that money.